Good morning, all. We will start. This is obviously the last school meeting of the fall, which is incredible, and I congratulate. Yeah, you can clap for that. It's a great achievement. And what I want to offer some advice on approaching the last week, and in particular exams. Partly because for many of you, and I think probably statistically most of you, you've not been through either a Taft exam period or even maybe any. Certainly those of you up top have not. And I want to offer some advice there, and I also want to offer a larger closing thought if I could. So we should recognize that the end of the fall term and then the exam period can bring added stress, and that's normal, right? It's part of being a student anywhere. It's certainly a part of being a student here. And one of our hopes as teachers is that you learn how to handle these times in a healthy way, and that's going to help you in the future, right? So we hope that you're developing the skills and thoughts or approaches that will help you. So last week, I did a little thought exercise with the school monitors, a kind of reflection that we often do. And I gave them a card with the following question on it. And it said, "What will you do to ensure that you are physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually centered to be able to meet the demands of this higher stress period?" And I preface the exercise by noting that there are times in our lives when the demands are higher than others, and an exam period is clearly one of them, and that we do well to recognize this fact, not to avoid it. That is, we do well to actually say, I see that this period of time is going to be higher stress than other times, but that we can be really strategic about how we manage it. And I think that if you have that kind of approach, you can actually feel a tiny bit of control and some power. Stress, I said, is not a bad thing, as in saying I have stress as if it's a disease. It is absolutely true, this is clinically and physiologically true, that excess of stress, excess is bad for you, right? And if you ever feel overwhelmed, turn to an adult, turn to a teacher that you trust, and they will be able to help you develop strategies, they'll be able to support you, they'll be able to give advice. But a lot of levels of stress that are, if they're managed carefully and they thought about in sound ways, can actually be motivational and constructive. And you know that. Surely the dancers last Friday backstage were feeling this, or athletes 5 minutes before the Hotchkiss game, or actors on the opening night of the Addams Family, or students presenting their 3D projects in the engineering class, or an upper mid class about to do an in-class writing on Frederick Douglass, and on and on. Surely we all know that those moments of feeling some stress are normal. We know them, and you're going to have them here, and that's by design. And what I believe is that developing the skills and attitudes to help you remain healthy and centered during those periods is critical, and it can really help you in the future. And so what the monitors shared was really helpful. For many of you, I think you've developed these kind of strategies, you've thought about them, and what you hear is probably familiar. My guess is, in particular, I could have asked anyone, especially older students, and they would have a list themselves. So let's listen to them. Here's what I heard: two things. I heard monitors talk about actions they take, that is, things they do, and I also heard them talk about an attitude they bring, a way of thinking. The actions showed that they listed, again, familiar to many of you, showed that they had all over time developed proven, unique, personal, tailored ways, things to do to remain mentally healthy, physically sound, emotionally stable, and spiritually centered in those times. In other words, over time, they've come up with a catalog of actions that help them center themselves during those times. Here's a partial list, and see if you recognize any, or if there are ones you might even add. Manage sleep strategically. Several said this. One student talked about how he uses brief nap periods to really help. Another talked about setting a bedtime. So sleep, strategic approach to sleep. Exercising. Many commented on this. Exercising in different ways. Listening to music. Taking breaks and watching shows. Several Mons mentioned this. Drinking and eating properly. Almost everybody mentioned that either on their card in reflection or afterwards. The importance of hydrating, of eating in a good way. Call family. I call my parents. Drawing. Art helps me relax and center myself. Interestingly, 2 different students said drinking herbal tea in the afternoon is helpful. Go to church. I worship. Being with family at church is helpful. I meditate. Even brief periods of meditation can help. I'm careful to work in small chunks and take breaks. Organize. I clean my room. I put things in folders. I make my desk more organized. It's a really good strategy. It helps you feel a kind of control. I spend time with friends. It's a really good list, and I'm guessing each of you could add to it. My guess is many of you recognize things in there. Each action has benefits for that student. And then collectively, if you do a number of them, they can give you a sense of power, of control, all right? Optimism. But they did more than just list actions, right? So those are actions, and again, you have your own. They also shared, without being prompted, attitude. That is, a way of thinking about how to deal with these times, how to feel kind of powerful or in control during stress. I try to stay positive. Interesting. Just someone said, I actually coach myself. I work to remain positive. I try to get out of those negative feedback loops. I tell myself I can get through this. That's a really good perspective. I'm going to be okay. I tell myself that. I actually remind myself. I have a one-day-at-a-time attitude. It's that idea that if you look at a mountain, you're going to climb it. If you looked at the peak, you'd think I'd never get there. But if you said, I'm going to do it one step at a time, one day at a time, right? That's a really good approach. I'd strongly recommend that. If you have an exam on Monday, don't worry about that one on Friday. One day at a time. Think about Friday, get through Friday, think about Saturday. I laugh and smile. I keep a perspective. I say, I will do my best and I'm going to enjoy life. Really sound. I remind myself, I believe in me. So some of you may recognize these attitudes as indicative of a person who has what's called the growth mindset. This is the thinking of a woman named Carol Dweck, who's a psychologist. And that's the person who has an attitude that sees setback as temporary, right? Challenge as opportunity. And there's a lot of research that shows that the attitude we bring to these moments of stress has a lot to do with how we manage it. And don't forget that. You can actually coach yourself into a frame of mind that will help you get through those moments and help you feel a kind of optimism, eagerness, and resilience. Try it. You actually can have some control and power here. So my points are these. First, we all have periods of time in our life which have higher than normal stress, and you're not alone, right? Every single one of you is feeling that, and you're going to feel that in the next few days. You are not alone, and this is normal. Second, there are strategies and attitudes you can have which will help you stay centered and healthy. You are not powerless. You can do this, and you can develop the skills and approaches that will help. And third, you can become more centered and more resilient and more strong as a result of this. Right? So I really wish you the best of luck in those days, and in these few days, and I know you're going to do well. You can do this. I know it. But I want to close with a bigger thought. A way of thinking that maybe can form a kind of bedrock of pride and strength as you go into these last days. So I want to go back to the beginning of the year. There's no reason you would remember because it's the first day of the year, but when we met at Convocation, I had a thesis in a way, and I said, I wonder if this year, which is following a year of destruction, could be one of creation. I was trying to posit that we could have a year of creation. There was a parallel with 9/11, I said. There's some 20 years ago, the year that followed, when we had an act of terrible destruction, and the year that followed was one of unity and strength and resilience and love. And I said, could we commit, all of us, to creating a community that was impossible last year when COVID destroyed so much, when it distanced us and separated us, and it prevented us from being what we always want to be? Could we create something that was unique, of excellence and achievement, but also fun and spirit? Could we be a place, I said, where everybody felt they belonged, everybody felt valued, everybody felt they could succeed and be their full selves? So really, it was a big ask. It's a big ask to follow last year and say, this is going to be about creating something. And you answered it, all of you, and faculty and staff, and said, yes, we can. We can do this. So do a little thought exercise yourself. Think about where you were last September, October, November, and early December, last year, right? Think back on those months, whether you were here under the conditions we had last year, or whether you were remote, or whether you're at another school. And now think about the last 3 months here. Didn't you have fun cheering at the Diarco Cup, or shivering in the rain at Hotchkiss, or watching teams win under the lights or under a rainbow? Will you ever forget the brotherhood or sisterhood you knew on that team? How great was it to be just together 3 or 4 times a week in this space after last year? Wasn't it just simply really cool to witness the talent of actors and singers and musicians and artists on this campus? What about those classes, back in an almost normal class, with teachers who get so excited about their subject they cannot help themselves and it becomes positively contagious? Or maybe those light bulb of understanding moments that finally happened maybe after that 5th time of extra help. How many times did you hang out with maybe the best friends you will ever have in your life on the jig pad looking out on the pond, or at a crowded table in the dining room, or in a common room on a Sunday afternoon? Now, didn't it feel special just to have what we had, to be part of creating what we did? I would say that every gesture or word that helped someone feel they belonged, every moment of robust and respectful debate or dialogue in class and out, every heart-aching moment on the playing field, every laugh-filled meal at a table, every dance, song, or note that filled this room, all together, they affirmed faith, they returned optimism, they brought back joy, they spread love. And every member of the school seemed to say, in answer to that question, can we create something here? Everybody seemed to say, we are back. We're community and we're Taft. So that you will feel proud at the end of exams, I am fully confident. You will. I know you will. But what I want you to feel even prouder of is what you helped create this fall. And for that, personally, and also on behalf of the faculty, I want to thank you for being part of creating something that's so special and that something shapes all of us. So I wish you the very best luck in these last days. Take good care of yourselves. Look for help from teachers if you need it. Do your very best and good luck. So we're adjourned.